Assalamu alaikum everyone. Welcome to today's panel. Today we're actually discussing about building and retaining healthy, productive teams remotely and the future of working remotely in this new world. Today we have very special guests with us. I want everyone to introduce themselves a bit because I know about you guys, but I want everyone else to know about you a bit as well. Hamza, could you please start?
Assalamu alaikum everybody. Thank you so much for coming. My name is Hamza Tahir. I'm the head of developer relations and community at RemoteBase, and currently I'm the chief growth officer at FutureFest. Yeah. So that's a short introduction about myself.
Does this work? Okay. Assalamu alaikum. My name is Maxine Cunningham. I'm the CEO and founder of a company called Pick My Brain. Pick My Brain is the world's largest knowledge marketplace. So you can imagine a marketplace that you can pick anyone's brain in the world and ask them questions, or you can list your brain and let the world know that you have knowledge to share. So we think that knowledge commerce is going to rival e-commerce in the future. So that's what we're investing in. Right now we are in 88 different countries from around the world. We believe in diversity and inclusion, so we're not industry agnostic. We have individuals from business, engineering, art, psychology, entertainment, and the KPI that we're most focused on is actually creating conversations between the world's people. We think the more conversations people have with one another, the more economic and social opportunities that unlock.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm Maheen. I'm from Squadio. I am the CFO at Squadio. Squadio is a marketplace in Saudi Arabia for technical talents. We work everywhere in the GCC and we hire talents from across the world. We're similar to what Saad does remote base, but we do it in Saudi Arabia. You should come down to our booth in the expo. I'll see you there.
Thank you. I'm Abeeda Haroon. I'm heading the customer experience team at Polly, which is a startup based out of Seattle in US. I'm part of the panel because I'm extremely passionate about remote work. I've been, as part of the startup, I've been into remote work fully remote work for the last 2 years approximately. And I can claim myself to be converted, so to speak. There's no going back to the office for me. So loving to be part of the panel and talking about the future of work.
Awesome, happy to have you. So we've all seen a rapid shift to remote jobs. After the COVID-19, everyone was forced to stay at home and the remote job trend started to take off. Now we've seen that as a norm, and we're going to learn a bit more from our panelists, from their amazing backgrounds and great perspectives of what are the new challenges that we will be facing and how can we tackle them. I wanted to ask the first question, which is, what will companies need to offer to attract the best talent moving into the future of work? So Hamza, if you could start.
Yeah, so I think because I have this background from, I've been working remotely ever since I started my career, and even before the COVID, but while the COVID started booming, in the COVID, remote work started booming, right? And everybody wanted to work from home. Because they were afraid of COVID, and also there were a lot of companies that were offering their talent to work from home or flexible working hours and all. So I joined RemoteBase a year and a half ago. It's a Pakistani top startup that hires top 1% talent from all over the world, similar to Squadio and Top or Turing. And I joined the growth team. So I think what I've seen from my own personal experience, and also while representing a lot of remote engineers from all over the world, people want to first of all, they want to have the flexibility to work not during the office hours, not to have 9 to 5 work culture or something like that. They want to work any time that they want, and they just want to open their laptops, and they want to have a stable internet connection and work out of anywhere in the world. Either it's like Pakistan. So for me, last year I spent most of my time abroad, traveling across the world, and the best opportunity that I had a remote job. I could go to similar conferences or bigger conferences all over the world, and at the same time have a good work-life balance as well. I can open my laptop, I can do my chores, I can also go to gym or do anything, right? Like, so flexibility, having that's of course, like the topmost thing, and then having a good work-life balance, that's also something that companies do attract. And other than that, I think the other things are similar to any other company, that if I'm an engineer, or if I'm somebody who has, right, like good skills, I'd ask from a company, right? Like, it can be of course, right, like having a good work culture at the and having right tools, having access to development and professional growth as well. So yeah, I think those are some of the basic things.
I agree. As a CEO, something I provide, so what are some of the things that we offer our remote staff who work all around the world? We've started to, of course, offer flexibility, work from home, but what we've topped off is that we're actually starting to build in professional development budgets for our employees, and we're seeing companies that we're working with do the same. So imagine starting a remote career off with a new company, and that company not only welcoming you and introducing you to this remote team in an intimate way, but also filling up your wallet with $1,000 to $2,000 that you can spend on anyone in the company for mentorship, coaching, advising, to help you upskill and really deepen your soft skills. So one thing I think that as a remote employee that you're going to have to be really good at and adept is having conversations and connecting with a wide variety of people, and working on those soft skills. And so offering our employees, $1,500, $2,000 to spend on that has allowed our employees to kind of upskill that soft skill type development. Another thing, we're seeing this, Pick My Brain is starting to build knowledge marketplaces within companies. And so these companies are starting to identify that they have this huge talent pool, but they often don't know how much skill they actually have on the team. So they know the job descriptions of their employees, but they don't know that some of these employees have coaching certifications and leadership qualifications. And so by doing an audit of all of your employees and inquiring deeper than the skills that they were hired to do, they can actually find a lot of talent within the company. And when they let their employees know that everyone in their what the talent exists on the team, they can give their employees an opportunity to learn from one another. So we're building these knowledge marketplaces internal to these companies that have 10,000 to 100,000 employees, and we're seeing that's helping these remote workers develop in a larger capacity and keep the culture alive within this very diverse team. So that's one thing I'll add to the flexibility and freedom.
Thanks, Maxine. Your company does great work. So in terms of remote working, I'll keep it down to what we do. We offer flexible working hours, that's for sure. We have a very collaborative culture that is extremely necessary to be able to cultivate the remote work culture. We offer job security because regardless of the fact whether you're working remotely or whether you're working in office, job security is a top priority for anyone who is currently in this particular market. Paid time off is a given. If somebody is not giving you paid time off, they are exploiting you. You need to ask for paid time off. You need to ask for paid sick leave days. This is a given, and you need to ask for budgets that are allotted for setting up remote offices, laptop allowances, because these things are fairly common. These budgets are fairly common, available in the companies when they're working in office, and these budgets are certainly available when you're working remote. So you have to lay these terms out when you are joining companies that are working remotely.
Four things I would say if you want to attract the best talent in a remote space. Firstly, I can't emphasize enough what the other two as well talked about, flexibility. And flexibility over here is not given to employees as a benefit. Flexibility is by default something that everybody has. It's the right of an employee. So let's not even talk about flexibility, I would say, because that's there for granted. The other thing is the use of technology and tools. Very very, very important. You need to have like really those tools which encourage collaboration, which encourage async work to really make remote teams come together. A small example I would like to share over here. So when I joined Polly, the startup that I'm with, so in the first week I got no emails, which was very strange for me. I kept refreshing my inbox that why don't I have any emails? What's happening here? Is something wrong? Do I need to reach out to IT? And then I talked to my boss about it, and he said, you know, Abeeda, there's no need for emails. And what it turned out was that emails are primarily for communication with external stakeholders, external customers. Internally, the employees are collaborating where work is happening, which is tools like Slack, Notion, you know, and these kind of things. So again, you having a very technology mindset to kind of drive that way of work. So that would be the second thing. The third thing I would say, which is very important, is you need to have a culture of continuous learning, continuous development, and that's at the employee level. Because if you're wanting to hire the best talent, they'll get bored and they'll be at a flight risk all the time if you're not going to keep them engaged. And last thing I would say is that, you know, for these remote companies, it's very important that there's no element of discrimination. So for instance, I'm talking about those companies, not the ones who have outsourced their work, but really, you know, you're part of their contract, you're getting paid in the same currency as the rest of the employees. So, you know, if employees sense, like as Pakistani employees, if you sense that there's an element of discrimination in policies, you know, that's really going to turn the switch off in your remote culture, because everybody needs to be at the same level. And that's something that the culture and the policies, like I said, they need to ensure.
Awesome.
We can start from here.
Okay, perfect. So everyone is working, a lot of people are working, not everyone yet, but a lot of people are working remotely now. And working with people from different cultures is a norm. How do we collaborate across cultures to make remote working work?
Yeah, I can start off. Thank you. I love this question. I think collaboration is the key. If you can't make collaboration work in a remote team, your remote team is just going to die down eventually. And again, the first point that I talked about, while yes, there are tools which encourage collaboration, which kind of nurture it and foster it as part of the culture. But it's also about, you know, when you're talking about people talking to each other, there are also the behavioral signs that you really need to look out for. Again, going back to my early days at Polly, I had worked with Scandinavians earlier, Asians earlier, even people from the Middle East earlier, but I hadn't worked with Americans earlier. So when I started to work with them, I felt that why am I getting the resistance? If they're saying that it's an open policy, it's saying that everybody has a voice and everybody will be heard, why am I feeling the sentiment that I'm not being heard? And then I took a step back as to what is it? Is it the work that I'm saying? Is it the argument that I'm giving? Is that not convincing enough? What is happening here? And that's when I would say that a book came into my life. I forgot to bring it today, and it was about how to work across cultures. And you know, it was really eye-opening that when you're working with the US culture, how do you negotiate? How do you kind of make yourself heard? How does the decision-making work? How do they you know, when you're going to present something, when you're kind of getting buy-in for a project, do you start off with, here's what we need to do, or do you start off with, this is why we need to do? So, you know, these are two very different kind of approaches. So while making collaboration work, like I said earlier, it's very, very important to have that cultural context in mind. Otherwise, you'll just be kind of lost as to how to take things forward. Then, you know, and again, building on collaboration, the definition of collaboration totally changes in a remote setup. So for instance, if I ask all of you to visualize right now the word collaboration, I'm sure you people will see that it's a room full of people and kind of they're working together. collaboration in a remote setup does not happen like that. A, because there is no room, no physical room. B, the people are not together at the same time because people are working in different time zones. So the context of collaboration, and it's not that we're not collaborative. Like I said, there are tools, there are async work, how to make collaboration work. If I can't make it to a meeting, to my weekly stand-up meeting, I can just record a Loom video talking about that, hey, these are the things that I'll be working on next week. So really using technology and tools to use it to your advantage. So I would say, in short, that's the way to go about it.
So when you're going into a remote setting, I would suggest that you go with the perspective of eliminating all sort of bias and stereotypes that are coming with any other cultures. So I'll give my example. I am from Pakistan, but I work in Saudi Arabia. Most of the people in my company work out of Egypt, Saudi, UAE, Tunisia, and with each of these countries, there's a certain stereotype that has been built. But the idea was to go in with an extremely non-biased, non-stereotypical, and see how to work. The first week that I went into, I personally did not reach out to anyone, even though everyone was trying to reach out to me, because I was a bit skeptical on, I don't know how they would perceive me, being the only person who was a Pakistani in the company. But having been here for about half a year, it's wonderful to work with people. I've been to Egypt, I've been to UAE, and when you go there and when you talk to people in person, it is amazing to see that at a human level, everybody is pretty much the same. Everybody wants to work. Everybody is hustling right now. So I would say that when you're doing it, just the respect that comes with any other country, and learn about other cultures, learn about food, common topics, learn about food, learn about music, learn about memes, learn about what kind of GIFs everybody is sending. One of the things that we do is that we have a random page on Slack where everybody is just sending GIFs and memes, and everybody is just constantly reacting to it, and creates like a fun culture where people can explain and people can talk to each other, and it opens up that space where you can now collaborate much more easily than, like Polly was saying, just doing it on email.
Yeah, I totally agree with what everyone is saying. One thing that we believe at Pick My Brain is that the more one-on-one conversations that happen within a company, a corporation, or even a country, the more economic and social opportunities that unlock. So one thing that we're implementing at companies that have more than 10,000 employees is a program that gets every employee to meet one other person in the company once a month. And the reason why we do that is because we've seen at these companies, oftentimes silos create. You often only spend time in your department or in your role, and very rarely do you get the opportunity to have a conversation with someone from your company in a different department, a different country, or a different culture. You can do it asynchronously on Slack, but we have found that, conversations, really sitting down and talking and finding out that we are both humans across the table is really important. And so we've recently signed a partnership with a company, Mitsubishi. So they have 85,000 employees spread around the world, and we're implementing to maintain culture at that company as they make the transition. And so every month, 85,000 conversations are going to happen at Mitsubishi. Across culture, across department, across discipline. And we're going to track, and our hypothesis is that these conversations are not only going to make the company feel more a part of one another, but it's actually going to it's going to be a competitive differentiator. So yeah, we think the future is very interdisciplinary, and that companies that enable conversations across these channels as we move towards the future of work are going to have they're going to just have a little bit more culture within their company, and they are going to find new opportunities that don't exist within their own departments. So that's one thing that we're really passionate about.
First of all, thank you so much, guys, for covering most of the things. But I'd like to just add a few things to what you guys said. First of all, somebody talked about, like the tools. So I think in remote work, tools are the backbone of the company. And the tools vary from company to company. Even in a technology company, developers use different set of tools. Even within all the project managers, product managers, within the same company, they'll having also, right, like the independence and the liberty, giving the right, like everybody the chance to choose their own set of tools, especially the teams, but also having, right, like a guideline of the tools that are just being successful for the company. So tools are the topmost important thing. Of course, Slacks, Teams, and all these other tools are there. But then, for example, right, like there's as Maxine was just talking about, right, like that you guys are doing this program where you're connecting people once a month. I think within remote teams, one thing that's right, like that's very critical, and that's also very at times, right, like it's challenging is the disconnect between the employees, because as you grow, right, like so I've seen my company grow from 50 to 300, 400, 500, right, like, and we've seen, right, like how people within remote they're connected, but at the same time, right, like they're less connected. So ensuring, right, like how team members are well connected, not virtually using the tools. Either it's the Notion. So for example, we use Notion. It's Notion. It has been, a lot of companies and startups are using Notion. We have, right, like a team board over there where, right, like everybody has different names, cool pictures. So in a big company, right, like you can just go to Notion. You can search for a product manager. You can search for a social media analyst. You can search for, a developer. So because, right, like as you're a big company on Slack, you cannot see, right, like all the teams, and also a lot of channels are private, and of course you have, right, like channels. We do also have channels like meme channels, and even we have specific community channels. For example, our team in Africa, they have their own channel. But one thing that we ensured and is that, right, like although we promote cross-functional teams to collaborate on projects, but the language should be English, right? Like, because we don't want that people to, even while cracking memes or sharing memes, if there's, right, like a very strict culture within our company that you can share all kind of memes, but they should all be in English, because, right, like we don't want people, especially in Pakistan, and India, and in this culture, this region, people love memes, and they make memes, and they're trending on Twitter and all, but at times our team used to do that, but then we ensured, right, like the teams the memes, they should not be just in English, but they should also be global memes, right, like memes from friends or something like that. And then seasons, right, like so that a lot of people watch us, and also, so tools, of course, Notion, Slack, Teams, and all these tools help a lot, but then you should be, right, like having a proper vocation thing as well. So we do vocations. Our team, right, like they go to Dubai or different cities around the world, right, like where their product managers, their managers, or their team leads are, so that, right, like once in a year they get this opportunity to connect with their team members physically as well, because in virtual setting, of course, right, like with the chat you can do connect and you can do drop Slack messages and all. But they should meet, right, like so that right, like the personas and everything about, right, like a person. Lastly, right, like while covering it up, I'd like to, right, like highlight another important thing, which is while somebody was talking about, right, like so we do use Polly as well. We've been using, because in our company we use a lot of tools. There's another thing that we promote within our company, or we've promoted in wherever I worked, is that, right, like our team has the independence to use any kind of tools. They do trials of different tools, and if they like it, either it's Apollo, either it's Chat GPT, right, like these days we use everything, and we ensure, right, like everybody has the access to the tools. So with the tools emails are, of course, right, like not just emails or the textual confirmation or conversation should be there, because, right, like in remote teams, there's another big challenge, right, like you do have meetings, and everybody does meetings, right, like you do have morning things, afternoon things, or just closing of the day, right, like you're sharing notes. But what we do is that we always share notes. We have proper meeting notes of all the meetings, and then whatever we talk about in our meetings or in our sprints or whatever, we ensure, right, like that everything is being written, and then after the post meetings they are being shared as well. So that's also, right, like so emails, we do frequently keep track of emails. We do use emails. We believe, right, like it's still there to put everything on right, like on official on terms, because at times you need to address that. But at the same time, Slack, is changing the way we communicate over the emails. And also, I'm the community manager for Slack as well in this region. So
that's a lot of plugins for Slack. So I wanna. So we're ending the panel, but before ending, I want to ask the question I'm most interested in. And Maxine, you spend a lot of time in Pakistan. Everyone else is Pakistani, but you guys are working with global companies. How do we make Pakistan the go-to market for remote talent, in your opinion? And we want this to be quick.
Okay. So I think we're very lucky, especially this region in terms of although we have a lot of challenges, but at the same time, this nation is actually it has this crazy hunger in terms of the learning opportunities and to try out different things. Either it's Amazon, either it's freelancing, either it's different tech stacks. People and in terms of the tech market, Pakistan of course is the third largest freelancing nation in the world, and of course in terms of the hiring and all, how we make. I think the youth and everybody is already contributing a lot in terms of either it's the projects that they're bringing, either it's the online platforms that they're working with. But how we're ensuring is that it's creating is actually providing them a platform which was everybody in Pakistan, and they're talented, they have the skills, either they're React engineers, Amazon engineers, but in terms of getting equal wages or nice wages, they needed a platform, so a lot of companies like TopTal, Turing, remote based Squadio, they're providing that platform where a lot of people they can go, they can be vetted, and then they're ready to be available for the companies to be hired.
Yeah, I love this question because I came to Pakistan to discover what talent existed in this nation. And, competitively, Pakistan has a competitive advantage in terms of labor prices. So the world is going to come and hire developers, content creators, thought leadership from countries that have a labor competitive advantage. So Pakistan is on the map for that, but so is India, so is Bangladesh. So how is Pakistan going to differentiate itself from those other countries? And I think it comes down to these soft skills, the ability for different individuals to integrate onto these teams that are hiring in a more cohesive way than other countries, right? So how do you differentiate when I can hire someone for the same price from 3 different countries? Well, the next stage that I look for, actually I start with this, but typically people start with price and then they go to the next phase. What is your personal brand? Can I see you? Are you vetted on platforms like Upwork and Fiverr? And I'd go even further to say, Pick My Brain does a great job at showcasing who you are and what you are all about. And the more I can read about you and understand you, the more context I have to work with you, the more I can dive into you as a person. So yeah, besides the price, making sure that your brand and your story and your face and your interests and your knowledge are displayed globally is another huge competitive advantage. And I think Pakistan has a really big, since I've been here, I've discovered, the expectation I had when I came here, what the world perceives Pakistan as and what I've experienced are 2 vastly different visions. And so I think Pakistan, it's really important that this country starts to rebrand itself and share the stories that make you guys so unique and so wonderful, which for me has been hospitality, heart so welcoming, so warm. This is actually a very intelligent. A lot of educated employees or individuals are from Pakistan. It's a very youthful country. 60% of the country is under the age of 30, and so I think the more you guys can show off those qualities about what makes Pakistan so unique, the more global companies we'll see another differentiator besides just price. You don't want to just compete on price because everyone will just keep cutting down the price. And And yeah, so my thing would be show off your story, find profiles that you can do that, Upwork, Fiverr, Pick My Brain. And when you join a team, differentiate yourself by meeting, greeting, and having conversations with the entire team so that when they think of Pakistan, they think of warm, hospitality, heart, the qualities that you guys already have so well baked into your culture.
Yeah, I'll just take 2 minutes, and it's great to see youth sitting out here. So I would like to address my answer to what will make you more employable, and in return put Pakistan on the face of the remote work market. So I'll address my answer to you people definitely directly. In addition to the tools that Maxine said, very important to have a LinkedIn presence. Invest time on LinkedIn and continuously do that. Then, other than that, I would say a few other things. Yeah, in terms of behaviors, very important. You need to be self-motivated, a self-starter, disciplined. Not be comfortable in your comfort zones, because comfort zones are going to produce mediocre results. Nobody wants that in their team. You need to understand that you're competing with a global talent. These people could literally hire anybody in the world. So you really need to make yourself stand out, position yourself, make yourself the talent that everybody is fighting for. And then, continuously evolving yourself. That's very important. I think in my last 2 years at Poly, probably this is the 5th role that I've transitioned into. And there's no formal change in title or any of those things. You just understand that as the company's direction is changing, how do you continuously pivot your roles, be in those roles which are adding more value. And again, layoffs are a very common scenario. How do you kind of make yourself indispensable, or at least really, really painful for them to lay you off. And that's only going to happen if you continuously invest in yourself and upskill yourself to what they require. Their hiring processes are altogether different. The standard questions that used to be asked in my days when I started my career a decade ago, what are your strengths? Tell us a bit about yourself. Those questions are gone in the remote space. They're not even going to bother asking you those questions. The recruitment process is altogether different. They're very focused on hiring employees which are aligned with their vision, because it's a remote setup. They don't want to hire people who don't connect with their vision personally. So, this landscape is altogether different from the landscape that we've been used to. And we are really in the position to kind of be there, market ourselves out there, work on yourself, work on polishing those behaviors. It's a huge, huge opportunity. Broadening your horizon, broadening your exposure to make yourself ready when that right opportunity comes in. And to be honest, it's just that one company that you need to make that bet. When you're looking for these companies, look for those companies which are typically SaaS. And the reason that I say US-based is because, those are the companies that are really working towards fostering a remote team environment, and they really want to make it work. So when you're doing your company research, look for those SaaS-based companies based out of
I'm sorry
US.
to interrupt, but we're way out of time.
Yeah, just one last comment I would say, and every individual, what you need to understand is that every individual hired is opening up doors for other Pakistanis out there. In a remote setup, you're not just yourself. You're representing your company, your country. So you're a Pakistani for them. Represent Pakistan with pride, with dignity. Be the talent that they really remember that, yes, this is the talent that we want to work with and we want to hire and we want to fight for. And then, show them what you're capable of, and don't settle for anything less. You'll have their respect when you negotiate well with them. So, yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time. It was an amazing panel. I don't want it to finish, but unfortunately we're out of time. Again, thank you.